I'm Senator Megan Hunt, MEGAN-HUNT, and I'm here today to present LB1248. LB1223.
Thank you.
You know, we've all been driving on the road. The headlights are too bright. The headlights are too bright. That's all this is about. And this is one of those bills where I talked about this with a lot of my friends. I talked about it with people online on social media. I told my kid about it, and my kid was like ecstatic. Everyone agrees the headlights are too bright. And you know, the short version of the intro that I'm going to give you is, this is a manufacturer problem. There needs to be an act of Congress, but there are states all over the country that are taking action at the state level. There are countries that have taken action to say people have to be able to drive safely. The lights are too bright, they're in all of our eyes, and we have to like put a cap on this at some point. So what I'm presenting to all of us today is a platform to potentially do something about that in Nebraska, whatever ends up making the most sense to this committee and to the people of Nebraska and to the stakeholders that you know, stand to gain from this bill or potentially lose from this bill, and hopefully get this to a place where everyone's in agreement. You know what I'm talking about. You're driving in the dark and suddenly a blinding light on the horizon coming your way forces you to squint, look away from the center of the road in front of you. You're driving on the white line, and maybe a driver that's going faster than you quickly approaches from behind, and the bright light from their LED headlights shining in your rearview mirror, blinding you. If there was a deer or something on the road, you wouldn't be able to react quickly enough and avoid that tragedy. Or maybe you are someone who's been on the other side of this equation, where you're just driving and you're minding your own business and people are flashing their brights at you and you don't really know what to do about it, because I know that happens to people too. In most instances, this is just a momentary frustration, but it can actually pose very real dangers for the elderly, for anyone with any kind of minor vision impairment. I have astigmatism, and so that can be very difficult when you're driving and the lights are, you know, flashing more than they would for someone with better eyesight, and especially with people driving at higher speeds in the dark. Nighttime driving is already riskier, but when environmental visibility is already limited, the window of time that we have to react to unexpected obstacles like debris in the road or unpredictable maneuvers from other drivers is critical. Adequate time to slow down or pass or stop, just the reaction time that you need to drive safely at night, is the difference between a preventable accident or having to veer off the road or face collision. An NHTSA study regarding glare perception found that 90% of respondents found glare from oncoming headlights disturbing, quote unquote. Other studies have found that bright headlights can interfere with a driver's ability to recognize objects on the road. For instance, a pedestrian may be mistaken for a road sign. Besides serious injuries and vehicle damage, car accidents caused by bright, blinding headlights may raise insurance premiums. The specifics of the language on this bill are all open for discussion, and what I'm really seeing this bill as is a platform for us as lawmakers, for our constituents, for manufacturers and law enforcement to share ideas about what we might be able to do about this at the state level that could make it a little bit safer for everybody on the road. Our current statute specifies that headlights cannot project a, quote, glaring or dazzling light, which is kind of unclear, and it hasn't been updated since the 1940s. Other than that, there's another section we update in this bill that talks about when those dazzling lights should be adjusted for passing or coming in a certain range of another car. But that's also based on other types of bulbs from the 1940s and hasn't been updated for our modern vehicles. The language in this bill was combined from aspects from other states, as detailed in the handout that I sent you. You can kind of see where the parts of the bill came from our neighboring states. The distance at which I have the high beams, where you have to dim the brights, that language is from Iowa. Wyoming, Kansas, and Missouri have various bans on colored LEDs that we put into the bill. And the height restriction of how high up the headlights can be is from Texas. The bill has two components. One is setting limits for the headlights as they are installed or manufactured, including limits on their brightness, color, and height. That section also specifies that headlights must be compliant with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's regulations and prohibits DIY aftermarket alterations to headlights that substantially alter the headlights from how they were intended to perform. The intent with the bill, what my goal is with the bill, it's not to penalize consumers. It's not for cops to pull someone over and measure their headlights and say, now you have a fine or something because you're driving a car with the wrong headlights. It's really to hold manufacturers accountable, and it's to pressure Congress to take action to hold these manufacturers accountable. I would really like for manufacturers to reform what they're putting out into the market. And I know that with new vehicles that are becoming available, we don't really have a choice on what the headlights are on the car that we're buying or selling. And in our research on the issue, it became clear that the problem has gotten worse because of the failure of Congress and other federal agencies to set standards. And why is that? Well, I don't know, maybe the lobby, maybe, car manufacturers probably have a lot of strong voice in this type of thing in the United States, and that makes sense, but regulations have been passed in other countries, and once again, other states in the United States are taking action on this too. So I would like us to add our voice to that mix. I'd like to think that the more states start bringing legislation on this issue and passing action on this issue will exert some kind of pressure on the feds or automakers or both to take some steps in the right direction. The second component of the bill has to do with when and how bright headlights should be used on the road. I've attempted to bring us more in line with our neighbors by specifying that bright headlights must be dimmed or adjusted. Primarily, the intent here is to say that if you're using your brights, lower them to a normal mode. When coming within 1,000 feet of another vehicle, or when approaching another vehicle, to pass it within 400 feet. That's the average of what our neighboring states have. So I welcome the input of anyone here, any questions you have. I'm open for ideas for improvement, and I'm excited to have this discussion. Thank you.
So, do you feel that the problem is not just aftermarket headlights, that the factory ones are too bright also?
Factory ones are too bright. They're too bright. I can't believe you don't know what I'm talking about. You're driving in like a city, and it's not even always a big truck or something. It could be a sedan, it could be an SUV often. And you think to yourself, these brights are getting brighter. These lights are not what they used to be, and they're blinding. And this is a manufacturer choice, but they are not putting these headlights on all the cars because they don't have them in other countries.
Okay.
I don't know why this is. I think something about having a tough car or something about our culture of aggression. I mean, I can have all kind of philosophical opinions about that, but they're too bright.
All right. Questions from the committee. Senator Frederickson.
Thank you, Chair Moser. Thank you, Senator Hunt, for bringing the bill. I know you've been a long time advocate in the headlight community.
I campaigned on that, that's right. A leader in headlight philosophy.
So is the approach that you're taking, is this, so I heard a couple of things. One, is it like a public safety approach, or is it like more of like an aesthetic? Help me understand a
Well, you
bit
know
more.
some things about me. What do you think? It might be both. I don't like to look at it, and it's cutting people into car crashes. So I think we're killing two birds with one stone here.
Got it. And then my other question is, for the high beam and the distance, like dimming your brights if you're having a car approaching, do we currently have statute that
You know, I don't think
on
so.
that? I don't know. Okay.
I'm looking at my LA.
I know
She
it's like a
says we
common
do.
courtesy thing, but it's,
We do, but we changed it. And I think that this is in the additional info section on
Okay.
the chapter 60, 6224. You can see how we changed that language just to be more clear and also align us with the other states that are around us in terms of like how close you can be to somebody before you need to dim those brights.
got it. Thank you.
Senator Brandt.
Thank you, Chairman Moser. Thank you, Senator Hunt, for bringing this. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Thank you.
And it could be because the older I get, my eyesight is degrading.
That'll happen.
Yeah, that'll happen. So even like in the daytime, you have so many daylight lights. I actually get blinded, in the middle of the day for a second. And I think it has more to do with the height of the vehicle. And the other thing is, some of my vehicles have the auto headlight feature where it automatically dims, and some of mine are
Yes.
older than that and do not. Does this apply just to the low beam measurement? Because legally, you're only supposed to have low beams on when you meet another vehicle.
It doesn't speak to anything about low beams, it's just about your brights.
Because I guess, I didn't read the statute on the law specifically, but I would assume Nebraska has language in there that you're supposed to dim your lights when you're within so many feet of another vehicle so that you aren't taking high beams into somebody's eyes.
This bill clarifies that and says how close you need to be. It says, when coming within 1,000 feet of another vehicle, or when approaching another vehicle to pass it within 400 feet. And that is language from Iowa. So that's aligning us with them. And also Wyoming, Kansas, Missouri have the bans on the colored LEDs, so.
So then is your idea that it would start with vehicles manufactured, let's say January 1st of 2027 going forward, or do we grandfather in all the vehicles, or you go back and they have to?
Well, I think you have to grandfather in vehicles because you can't expect people to go buy a new car or something. I think it just needs to be a guideline on, and that's not, the bill doesn't speak to that either. The bill is not written to manufacturers or anything, but, yeah, I guess the intention would just be for the manufacturers to stop putting these lights in these cars. You know, I had my car stolen like 2 years ago and I had to get a new car, and I bought a sedan, I bought a 4-door car, but I really thought about buying an SUV just so I could be higher up because the brights, the light, even when it's not on a high beam, like the LED lights are too bright for me and I don't like them when I'm low to the ground, but I did end up getting a car, but that was something I thought about when I was in the market.
Yeah, it does help. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Hunt, come on up and.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you to those who came to testify. I spoke to some of the legal experts in my office who've been working on this bill, and I can address some of the questions from my opening. Do we already have a law that directs high beam usage? Yes, that's what we're amending in Section 2 to reflect passing and approaching at more appropriate distances based on modern lights and what other states use, not the statute from 1940. Does it apply to low beams? Section 1 applies restrictions for all headlights. It doesn't specify low or high beams, but if they exceed those limits, they are considered bright and dazzling. And of course, to Mr. Eicholt's concerns, we're open to changing the approach to remove traffic stops. The feedback on this bill has been incredible. One person said, this is my favorite bill of the year. One other person said that we need fewer culture war bills and more, quote, whatever this is. People said, yes, cars have gotten bigger and some of those headlights are adjusted so poorly that they are blinding distractions. Someone said, I would like to be able to see as I drive. Thank you for this proposal. I support this measure that would regulate the brightness of headlights. This person said, oh my God, thank you, this is out of control. Someone said, I personally support this bill because I struggle driving at night when vehicles around me have bright headlights. I believe we need to regulate the brightness to ensure safety on the road. And the only opponent was a guy from Washington, D.C., who's from the auto industry. So I think there's broad support for this type of thing. People just want to see when they're driving. And I would like the legislature this year to send some kind of message to the auto industry that they need to look at the way they're manufacturing these headlights. My intention is not for Nebraskans to be getting pulled over. It's not for cops to be judging how much lumens something is. It's to change the cars. And I think that we have some tools in our toolbox in the legislature to push the automakers toward that. So thank you, everybody.
Okay, other questions from committee members? Wow. They're all being very reasonable today, huh?
Thank you all.
Thank you, appreciate your appearance.